The time is now 7 o'clock.
We are in this phase of the coronavirus that we call the endemic phase, which means that like the season of flu, the virus, it's going to come and go in waves. The current summer wave is ongoing, and although the government has secured enough medication, patients are still having difficulty finding these treatments. And at the same time, there have been questions raised as to the effectiveness of the upcoming fall vaccines. The endemic means that we are living with this virus, and both the government and we as individuals, we're going to have to be prepared and equipped to handle the ebbs and flows of this virus. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Thursday, August 29th on BEFM 부산 영어 방송. Good morning, Wavers. Welcome to our program. Yes, it is Thursday. It's a little cloudy out there. And today, our main topic, we're talking about the current summer wave of COVID. So yes, it is still ongoing. And you probably have heard about people around you, maybe at your workplace or even your family members that have come down with COVID during this past summer. And there seems to be still a shortage of COVID treatments. And that means for patients, it's been somewhat chaotic as they're getting different information and have to go on the hunt for medication. So according to the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, the KDCA, the number of COVID hospitalizations for the third week of August jumped to 1,444. And this is a huge increase from 266 just a month ago. So public health authorities announced that they will send out some 177,000 doses of COVID-19 treatments. However, it seems that local pharmacies and patients have yet to see that supply. A report that went out to 10 different pharmacies in Busanjin district said that only 2 of these pharmacies had COVID-19 treatments available. And although the district's public clinic gives a list of pharmacies that sell the drugs, that list may be different from the actual real-time supply. And this is a big deal for those in the high-risk groups, especially if the patients are of an older age and cannot search for supplies online. That's a real issue, right? Because not all, but some people in that older age category, they have difficulty, whether it's with those kiosks or anything going online, finding anything online. It's really difficult. And this is an issue that may arise again as COVID comes back in the next wave or some other form. And this is something that the country's public health system has to prepare for. All right, now we're going to turn to our text topic. When you have a fight or an argument with someone, are you the yelling or at least the talking type, or are you the silent treatment type? Also, do you like to hash it out and make up immediately, or do you need time? 자, 나는 싸울 때, 다툴 때 어떻게 다툰다. 예를 들어서 말을 한다 versus 침묵한다. 그리고요, 바로 푼다 versus 시간이 필요하다. So the type of argumentative person. How do you argue with another person? How do you make up with another person? Does it take a long time? Do you need time to cool off? Those are the logistics we're going over. You can send in your preferences, your stories to BFM's live chat on YouTube. And you can go to that platform, search for BEFM or 부산 영어 방송. And what you do is you subscribe, log in, and you can join in on the chat with our lively wavers. Also, on your phone, pound 9050. That's going to cost you 101. You can also reach me for free on our Kakao Talk channel. Same thing, search for BEFM or Busan Yongo Bang송. Also, the ways you can listen to us, so many different ways nowadays, right? On the radio, 90.5 or 103.3 FM, depending on where you are in the Busan area. You can listen and watch us on that YouTube platform, also available on the Patbang app. Looking ahead to our morning together, we have Lydia. She's coming in for Beyond the Headlines. We also have Hae-yeon coming in for City Insights. For our special interview, I think this is so interesting. We're going to talk about diabetes. Yes, that's a very common kind of ailment. But what about this? Bats. Yes, pakji, those kind of bats. The fact that certain bats they're called fruit bats. Why do they consume sugar and lots of sugar through fruit and they don't come down with diabetes? So we're going to dive into this topic. Diabetes, bats, and sugar. Is there a connection? And that's with our expert in hour number 2. I'll be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:06. These are today's headlines. National Assembly passes 28 bills, including Nursing Act. The National Assembly passed 28 bills yesterday, including its first set of legislation that have to do with the people's livelihoods, including the Nursing Act and the Civil Act, dubbed the Guhara Act. Presidential office refuses to reconsider medical school admissions quota for 2026. The presidential office has again refused to reconsider its plans to raise the quota on medical school admissions for the 2026 academic year over concerns for confusion on the scene. Government to boost Chuseok holiday food supply for price management. The plans will add a record 170,000 tons of food to the country's supply, including cabbage and radish, along with 70 billion won in subsidies for discounts. Czech special envoy to visit South Korea next month after nuclear plant deal. A Czech special envoy is scheduled to visit South Korea early next month to discuss potential bilateral industrial cooperation after a South Korean consortium was chosen as a preferred bidder for a nuclear plant project in the country. Japan issues emergency warning as powerful typhoon Shanshan approaches. Japan has issued an emergency warning as Typhoon Shanshan approaches its southwest towards Kagoshima and Miyazaki prefectures on the southwestern Kyushu island with an extremely strong force. And these are today's headlines. It's time to check in with Haley. Good morning.
Good morning.
So before we get into our updates, let's get your take on the type of person you are when you have an argument with somebody. Do you need to hash it out? Are you the one talking? You argue?
I argue. I talk about that issue to death. Yeah. But then I like to make up or hash it out, or at least
like immediately
fix it when immediately. Yeah, I just am very impatient. But I also don't fight that often. I mean, I get into minor arguments daily, multiple times daily.
But minor ones.
Yes.
Like
it's about what are you going to have for lunch or, whatever. But yeah.
Conversation.
Just heated conversations. Heated about everything.
I see. But it's not about like kind of like waiting, letting things cool down. None of that.
No, I don't stew. I mean, I do hold a grudge, but
You don't stew.
I don't stew. I boil and spill over.
I see. Well, we're going to jump into our first update. The government submitted its budget bill for 2025, so we're going to take a look at the items that concern our city, Busan.
Right. So a number of key policies pertaining to Busan, they they've been reflected onto the 2025 government budget. And that includes a massive budget for the global hub city and, of course, the Kadokdo Airport. So the biggest item is the new airport to be on the island of Kadokdo at 964 billion won. And that would cover the literal groundwork for the airport site, construction for the railway and the other roads to the airport that'll increase access, as well as compensations for the residents who live on the island who will be affected by said construction. And then there are other transportation measures that have been approved as well. For instance, the 3 bridges that would span Nakdong River, we're talking about the potential Daejeon, Omgung and Jangnap bridges have been approved, as well as the budget for an overpass to the Kadok Bridge from Songjeong, and an expressway linking Busan's new port to Gimhae, and subway projects for the Sasang and Hadan line, as well as the Hadan to Noksan lines.
I see. Well, what about the key industries in this area, though?
Right, let's go east for that. So Kisang County is looking to develop a hub for science, especially radiology and cancer treatment center. So a budget has been reflected for that, some 190 billion won on research and development. And also there's budget for future automobile development and parts, as well as other cutting-edge technologies. And as for existing industries, the budget includes funding for the modernization of the Busan Public Fish Market, the International Tourism City, and various park and recreation spaces.
I see. So, of course, very important, the budget for our city. So we'll see if this all works out for our lovely city. And moving on, Busan has had to withdraw or change several development projects or policies recently. And this has raised questions about communication skills.
Right. So we've talked about these issues. The city has gone back and decided to kind of scrap and start from square one the Kudok Stadium development plans, because there were plans to build this massive private apartment complex that had faced opposition. And then there was also the case to turn Baegang Tunnel, whether to just lower the tolls or toll-free.
Right.
We addressed that yesterday. By the way, it will be toll-free, at least for the next few years. So, taking a step back and looking at the entire process, for both of these cases, the city had been odds against the city council as well as civic society. But then after a certain period of back and forth, it went back and wound up changing the decision.
Yes.
So, for instance, in the Kudok Stadium case, that back and forth argument lasted for 8 months. But ultimately, it did work out for the best. But we do have to think about during those 8 months, a lot of administrative resources and, personnel, their human resources were spent developing it in the direction that has now gone back and have been scrapped. So an official from the Busan Citizens Coalition for Economic Justice said that the lack of public input gathering process may have been a contributor, a fundamental problem for this. And to not waste such precious resources, the city has to reflect public opinion first before making a decision.
Indeed. So hopefully better communication.
Absolutely.
Next up, the Korea Southern Coast Cup Yacht Tournament. That opens today.
Right. So hopefully it won't be affected too much by the indirect influence of the typhoon. But the Korea Southern Coast Cup, this is called the Namean Cup, the International Yacht Tournament, opens today through September 1st. And that'll take place across the southern coastal cities and provinces. So this is the country's biggest cruiser yacht competition, and it connects Busan, Tongyeong, and Yeosu. And it was enacted or created to raise awareness and participation in marine leisure activities, and also seek mutual development into within these 3 cities.
Sure.
So this is, by the way, the 5th year for the event, and it'll feature 350 athletes across 7 different nations. So the opening event, we do go west for that. We'll kick off in Yeosu, across to Tongyeong, and a grand finale taking place here in Busan. And there will be, of course, different public events across the 3 cities, so we may participate as well. And at Suyeong Harbor, there will be the dinghy yacht races and the para dinghy yacht races over the weekend.
Yes. So that is definitely here. Lastly, if you're looking for something to do this Friday, which is tomorrow, you may want to check out Jeonpo, right?
Yes, if you want to go hang out and mingle with the hip people of the city, the Gen Zs, the 2024 Busan Alley Festival kicks off tomorrow at Cheonpo, and that's at the Konggukgil, the hardware alley, throughout the weekend. So this Konggukgil has become one of the hottest, hippest spots in the city, and there are multiple programs going around all day and all weekend. First, the Cheonpo Beer All Day event, where you can get craft beer for 2,001. And then there's a flea market for various food and snacks, and of course, that area being like the cafe hot zone. Definitely check that out. A vintage zone for shopping, as well as an acoustic and DJ performances throughout the day. And by the way, this is only the first of many similar alley festivals to take place. It's put on by the Busan Tourism Organization. Next weekend, it'll be at Yeongdo, followed by Mangmi-dong and Dadepo. So stay tuned for more.
Oh, sounds like such a great mixture.
I'm
of
like
great
seriously
things.
considering
Yes.
going.
All right. Well, thank you for the updates, Haley. Back to you, the waivers for now. We're talking about when you have a disagreement with someone. Do you do a lot of the talking? Do you argue? Or are you kind of the silent treatment type? Do you like to hash it out and kind of make up immediately? Or do you need time to cool off? That's what we're talking about. 네, 싸울 때 다툴 때 어떻게 다투는지, 말을 막 하는 타입인지, 아니면 versus 침묵한다, 바로 푸는 타입 versus 시간이 좀 필요하다. So let me know what your preference is, the type of person you are. Here is your traffic report. It is now 7:16, and here's your traffic report. We're seeing relatively heavy traffic this morning across the city. There's congestion building on the Dongso overpass going out of the city, particularly around the Pomnaekgor ramp and Hwangryong ramp. It's also slow on Luno Samsungdaedo from Myeongji underpass to Shino Bridge. Backed up on Nakdong Namlo from Myeongji interchange to Cheongyang Sa-Ogui intersection as well. As for the weather, it's currently 27 degrees Celsius under cloudy skies. It was sprinkling slightly when I came into the office. Rain is forecast for later in the day with an expected high of 31 degrees. It's going to be quite windy today. Looking at the weather nationwide, Jeju is under the direct influence of Typhoon Shanshan, and there's heavy rain and a strong wind advisory over the island and the southern coast. The far seas of Namhae or the southern coast are also under a typhoon special advisory. Gangwon and Gyeongsang regions will see rain this afternoon, but the influence of the typhoon will bring heat to the western capital region. This was your traffic and weather.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? For all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need, right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time to dive into our news digest. So for our first topic with Haley, we're going to talk about the Nursing Act that passed through the National Assembly yesterday. So let's get into this bill and its divisive response in the medical field. So what are people saying?
Right. So first, the Nursing Act, it passed the parliament yesterday afternoon. Bipartisan support, 283 yeas amongst 290 lawmakers who were in attendance. So we got a handful of nays or abstinences from abstained with lawmakers who used to be or are still doctors. So the Nursing Act, what it does, it defines legal roles, specifically including physician's assistants, PAs, which have been a long done practice in the medical field, but never written into the law until now.
Okay.
So it concerns examinations, diagnoses, treatments, and other medical procedures that nurses and now PAs can serve under the guidance or mandate of doctors.
Sure.
So it does propose greater roles and responsibilities, as well as, this is important, better legal protection for nurses, nursing assistants, and PAs. So this has been long ongoing effort by the government to expand the role of nurses and implement the PA nurse system, especially as the trainee doctors walkout continues. By the way, the law will go into effect 9 months after it is declared by the cabinet. That declaration is to come sometime this week. So likely we are looking at next June as the actual enforcement date.
I see. Well, let's talk about the responses to the law.
Right. So it is definitely divided amongst occupations. So the nurses and their community welcome this.
Yes.
And they had been against the pilot program that's ongoing for PA nurses because it basically gave them higher responsibilities but no legal protection because it's not really a legally defined role in case of medical accidents. So they say that the passage of bill actually closes that legal gap, and it would be better for the patients to have someone treat them or serve them who actually has legal permission to do that job.
Okay.
And this actually may have had a very positive effect onto the medical workers strike that was supposed to take place today because according to the Central Union of Medical Workers, 52 out of 62 hospitals that were due for a strike actually reached a last-minute agreement in their negotiations, and that bill definitely likely played a role.
Right. So that's from one aspect, but the doctors, they see things differently.
Right. So they've been against the Nursing Act from the get-go, and they have called this a malicious law, and that's according to the Korean Medical Association, the KMA. So yesterday they released a statement saying that this bill holds the people's lives as collateral to serve the interests of specific groups, referring to the nurses, of course.
Yes.
So they say that the government and the lawmakers, they've been disparaging the doctors' strike as a move to protect their own interests. However, when it comes to nurses and other medical workers, they've been glorifying these protests as a just exercise of their rights. Also, the trainee doctors compare the doctors to an airline pilot and nurses to flight attendants in their separate statement, saying that the Nursing Act is similar to having a flight attendant fly the plane while the pilot is temporarily out. You know, that's yeah. So that metaphor may have opponents, let's just say. So there are also concerns that the passage of this act, it may negatively affect the potential return of the trainee doctors to work.
I see. Such a contentious, opinions. We're going to move on to another topic that's contentious in South Korea. Education and college admissions.
Forever and always, right?
Yes.
So there has been a socioeconomic pattern when it comes to college admissions.
Yes.
And now there's actually like cold hard facts and statistics to back that up. And this
Yes.
is according to a report by the Central Bank, Bank of Korea, based on educational data. Basically, if you have rich parents, you are way more likely to get into a good school. And
Not surprising, though.
it's not surprising,
Right.
but they actually really broke it down.
Okay.
How much? 5.4 times likely.
Oh.
Right. So students in the top 20% of the income group or their parents in that income group were 5.4 times likely to get into top universities. And of the freshman class at Seoul National University, the top ranked school, and this is from 2018, but 32% of their incoming freshmen were from Seoul. And then if you look at the three posh Seoul districts, it's the south of the river districts, Gangnam, Seocho, and Songpa.
Yes.
They accounted for 12%. So overall population does not pan out that
Right,
way. So
right.
definitely it is disproportionately heavily weighed towards that.
Sure.
But then you could potentially look at, well, let's just say, for argument's sake, parents here are likely, doctors, lawyers have very highly regarded jobs that come with high academic backgrounds. So then can't we just chalk that up to good genes, good genetics? They're smart because their parents are smart. Let's just say, because that is an argument by some, the BOK actually looked into that as well as potential. So by potential, they're defining this as based on the math grades for students in the 7th grade. So
Seventh grade.
중일. Because that's kind of when, before you get like super into the heavy academia, some kids do, to be fair, but it's like when your actual potential shows versus when that's like really finely tuned.
Okay.
So that showed that students with wealthier parents or, parents who have socially admired jobs, they did have an impact on the performance of their students, of their children, but that only accounted for 25% of the school college admission rate. So that means 75%, it's not just based on a potential, but how that potential may have been finely tuned. Money was thrown at it, resources were, given to support their potential.
Yes.
So basically 75%, which is 3/4 of the discrepancy, comes because of what kind of a support a student can get from their parents, from their neighborhoods, what kind of 학원s they have access to.
Right. And this is just anecdotal. So the saying goes like in these areas, like you just mentioned, they're done with math-wise, like all the 미적분.
In, like, elementary school.
They're done.
Yeah.
Whereas in the regional areas like Busan,
You're done when your school's done.
yes,
Yeah.
you're doing it right now in high school.
Right,
So there is
right.
a big difference.
No,
And-
that anecdotal evidence is supported by this, kind of concrete evidence. So
What's
how to
the
fix this? Well,
solution?
the BOK pointed to these injustices in college admissions as not just stopping there, but of course as a major root cause of many problems that we're seeing in the country,
Yes.
like the low birth rate and expensive housing prices in Seoul. I mean, definitely not even, just in the Gangnam, Seocho, Songpa areas, a big part of a reason that parents do stay in those areas is for their children.
Yes.
Right. So
true.
How do you fix the problem?
I don't know. How do you?
Well, they proposed a regional proportional system for college admission. So in Korean, that's 지역별 비례 선발제. So it's basically affirmative action,
Right.
but rather than gender or race, by where you're from.
Oh.
Yeah, so kind of taking their incoming classes, schools would be taking their incoming classes based on a set percentage of specific regions. So a third of 20% would have to come from Busan, other 20% from, Jeolla, other 20 from Gangwon, et cetera, and et cetera. So the central bank said that this system is based on the principle that talent can come from anywhere and everywhere, that the system may be implemented actually without any legal changes, and it just needs approval and determination, quote, from professors at Seoul National, Koryo, and Yonsei, Sky, and others.
Will that
yeah.
come is the big question.
Well, yeah. So once again, education is controversial forever and always.
Always, always. All right. Lastly, a new U.S. presidential debate has been scheduled for next month, but there was a major dispute over a seemingly minor issue. Question: whether to keep the microphone on or off, muted or unmuted, when it is not your turn to speak.
It's been such a big deal.
Right.
And this goes back to even the Biden-Trump debate a couple months back.
Yes.
So the first presidential debate, so this would be the first presidential debate between Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, will finally take place on September 10th local time on ABC. But there were days of debate from the Harris-Trump camps on whether to mute the mics when it's not the respective candidate's turn to speak. And that was actually a matter of note during the first debate between Biden and Trump on CNN. And by the way, back then, the mics were muted to prevent one candidate from interrupting the other.
Yes.
And it was widely seen as that one candidate being Donald Trump, because he does have an unconventional kind of rogue debate style. And we do go back to 2020 for that, when we had that famous moment of Trump just kept interrupting Biden, and Biden literally said, "Will you shut up, man?"
Like literally.
And that was a viral
Yes,
moment.
yes.
But then interestingly, this time around, it's Trump and his campaign that wants to mute the mics. So why? Well, because the first time when first debate when the mic was muted, it actually worked well for Trump's image, because, well, the people he couldn't talk. Right. So that really showed his more restrained side. So he seemed more kind of presidential, which is the image that all candidates are trying to,
Portray.
put across.
Yes.
And it did reduce risks of these rogue comments. But then on the other hand, for the Harris campaign, that's exactly what they want. They want him to seem less presidential by kind of going off the rails. So a statement from the Harris spokesman said, quote, "Our understanding is that Trump's handlers prefer the muted microphone because they don't think that their candidate can act presidential for 90 minutes on his own," unquote. So that's. Yeah, so the gloves are off. So there are concerns about Trump potentially insulting Harris, which could be detrimental because, let's face it, image politics are everything right
Yes.
now. He's an older white man. She's a younger woman of color. So
Right.
that could really impact undecided voters, especially based on their gender and race.
Yes.
On the other hand, Republicans say that the move to mute the microphone is so that the debate will be focused on issues. And they actually see the Harris campaign as being weaker on issues. So in any case, the September 10th debate may be the most consequential, most important moment between now and Election Day. So,
Yes. With bated breath, we wait.
Mic or no mic.
Yes, I can't wait so I can give you the hot clip for that. So, with that, we're going to wrap up the news and we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
Yes. I do want to read just one message because JB, I think, made a really good point, an interesting point regards to the message, the text topic. And he wrote, 집에서는 침묵한다. 회사에서는 바로 푼다. So I guess for JB and maybe for other waivers, it depends on whom you're having the argument with or in what situation. So very interesting. We're going to get to our first song. This is Rehab by Amy Winehouse.
They tried to make me go to rehab. I said no, no, no. Yes, I've been black, but when I come back, no, no, no. I ain't got the time, and if my daddy thinks I'm fine, just try to make me go to rehab. I won't go, go, go. I'd rather be at home with Ray. I ain't got 17 days. 'Cause there's nothing you can teach me that I can't learn from Mr. Hathaway. I didn't get a lot in class, but I know it don't come in a shot glass. They try to make me go to rehab. I said no, no, no. Yes, I've been black, but when I come back, no, no, no. I ain't got the time, and if my daddy thinks I'm fine, just try to make me go to rehab. I won't go, go, go. The man said, why you think you hit? I said, I got no idea. I'm gonna lose my baby. So I always keep a bottle on it. He said, I just think you're depressed. Dish me, yeah, baby, and go ahead. They try to make me go to rehab. I said no, no, no. Yes, I've been black, but when I come back, you no, no, no. I don't ever wanna drink again. I just need a friend. I'm not gonna spend 10 weeks. Have everyone think I'm on the man. And it's not just my pride. It's just till these tears have dried. They try to make me go to rehab. I say no, no, no. Yes, I've been black, but when I come back, you no, no, no. I ain't got the time, and if my daddy thinks I'm fine, just try to make me go to rehab. I won't go, go, go.
Welcome back, everybody. It's now 7:33, and our top story is all about about COVID as the ongoing wave, as well as looking into the inoculation or vaccination plans for fall are going on right now. The KDCA plans on starting fall and winter COVID vaccinations using a vaccine that targets the JN.1 variant. I don't even know the variant's name anymore. It's JN.1 right now. So, however, the Korean Medical Association, or KMA, raised questions as to the effectiveness of these vaccines. The KMA COVID panel issued a recommendation saying that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, recently approved a vaccine for the KP.2 variant. But what did I just say? For the one in Korea, it's geared towards the JN.1. It asked whether the planned vaccine would be effective and demanded proof that the JN.1 vaccine would be enough to fend off a winter wave of the virus. And the KDCA explained that the JN.1 vaccines are actually recommended by the World Health Organization, WHO, and is used by most other countries in the world, with the exception of the US and Canada. The KDCA added that as both the JN.1 and the KP.3, they're both subvariants of Omicron and are not too different in their genetic makeup. The planned vaccine that are going to be rolled out, that they will be effective. So that's the stance of the KDCA. And now, text topic time. When you have an argument with someone, are you the one that's doing all the talking or yapping, whatever you want to call it? Or are you kind of the silent treatment type? Also, do you like to hash it out and kind of, just have at it immediately? Or do you need time, maybe to cool off or to kind of gather your thoughts? 자, 나는 싸울 때 혹은 다툴 때 어떻게 다툰다. 예를 들어서 말을 한다 versus 침묵한다. 어떤 스타일이세요? 바로 푼다 versus 시간이 필요하다. And then, as JB mentioned, does it depend on with whom you're arguing with, or like in what context? At work? Is it with a 친구? Is it with your roommate, or AKA, I don't know, room controller? Is it with your family member? It really does it matter, or is it just depending on your personality type? So looking at some of your comments. Leslie likes to go for, she says, how I react to an argument is based on whom my opponent is. So she agrees with JB. It can range from going into full debate mode to silent treatment. If it goes to the point of silent treatment, I tend to go for a long walk or drive to calm down. And then when I come back, it gets resolved. I don't like going to bed with it unresolved because laying in bed, dwelling on it makes it much worse. Oh my gosh, Leslie, I actually agree with you. I kind of have this thing with me, like I try not to let the sun set on an argument. I try not to. I mean, it's difficult sometimes. I let it fester sometimes, but yeah, I agree with you. It's better to try to hash it out as quickly as possible. Sometimes, though, you need to cool off. All right, let's get to our hot clip for today. For today's hot clip, we're going to talk about something that sounds a little tricky. It's called a superseding indictment. But let's listen to the clip. This is regarding former President Donald Trump. And listen to the clip, and then I'll explain further.
Now to the major development in the federal election interference case against Donald Trump. The special counsel has filed a new revised indictment that takes into account the Supreme Court's decision last month on presidential immunity.
Everyone had been waiting to see how the special counsel would respond to the Supreme Court's granting presidents broad immunity for actions taken in the course of their work. Well, Jack Smith believes he can accommodate the court and still prove Trump committed crimes while in office.
This morning, special counsel Jack Smith filing a new superseding indictment against former President Trump for his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. a direct response to the recent Supreme Court ruling that granted presidents sweeping immunity for virtually all official acts of the executive branch. The key to Smith's new legal strategy, a surgical argument that when Trump was fighting to stay in power after he lost the election, he was acting as a private citizen and as a candidate, not in his official capacity as president. For example, the new indictment flatly states that Trump had no official responsibilities related to the certification proceeding, but he did have a personal interest as a candidate in being named the winner of the election. The indictment goes on to state that co-conspirators accused of helping Trump sow lies about the election were people acting in a private capacity, and that none of them were government officials during the conspiracies. The new indictment charges Trump with the same 4 crimes, including conspiracy to defraud the United States, to obstruct the certification of the electoral votes on January 6, and conspiracy against the right to vote and to have one's vote counted. The new indictment removes any mention of Trump's alleged behavior that prosecutors believe could be considered official acts. The superseding indictment came as Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson discussed the Supreme Court decision granting presidents broad immunity. She reiterated her dissent that the court had gone too far.
I was concerned about a system that appeared to provide immunity for one individual under one set of circumstances, when we have a criminal justice system that had ordinarily treated everyone the same.
So that was a clip from Good Morning America. So to explain a superseding indictment, it is a formal accusation brought by a grand jury. So there was already an indictment that was filed against former President Trump. And then what happened? The U.S. Supreme Court said that, you know what? Well, those charges are too broad. So, well, the Jack Smith, what he did was, the prosecutor, he narrowed the charges and he brought the charges again, and he has the legal right to do so. So that's why this is called a superseding indictment. It means it takes over the original indictment, and hence this is making waves right now. Likely, though, this will not be going to trial before the election. This was your hot clip for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time to check in with Lydia for Beyond the Headlines. Let's say hi to her first. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Hey, so you heard our text topic about arguing. And for you, what type of, debater are you or are you?
I like to talk about it immediately.
Immediately?
Yeah, I think I used to be even more so, like almost like you need to cool down a little bit. And I think I've gotten better at it as I've gotten older, because I know that it's probably better to like sometimes wait. But naturally, I'm more of like let's like come to a conclusion now.
Okay. So you want to kind of hash it out.
Like it goes like that with like pretty much everything in life for me. I like to, but let's get going.
What about one of our listeners, Tommy? He says, fight at home, impossible. Room controller with silent mode, that is the most dangerous thing ever. Cannot fight her.
It's toxic.
So
you can't. It's like you have a fight and then they ghost you for like 3 days.
Does she ghost you for 3 days?
That's like torture.
Your roommate ghosting you for 3 days. Is that a good thing? No?
In the same room, too.
It's like so uncomfortable, right?
Right.
Oh, 불편해. All right. Well, what are we going to talk about today for Beyond the Headlines?
Well, I mean, the weather today definitely has
Yes.
cooled down. And, as we transition from summer into fall, I've noticed something very interesting.
Yes.
Running has really taken off lately. Have you noticed that?
I see people, when I leave my apartment, at today I left at I think like 5:50? Mm-hmm. There were like 5 people like running.
Oh wow.
And I was just like, and they looked, all 5 of them were
You're
older
like
than me.
in a running neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm in a running neighborhood.
Yeah.
I was just like, I wanted to clap, but my hands were were on the steering wheel. And in my mind, I was clapping for them. I was just like, good for you.
Right. And I mean, it started like sort of like we're talking about COVID, but it started as a safe way to stay fit
Yes.
during the pandemic. And now it has turned into a full-blown cultural trend.
Like a thing, right?
Yeah, running clubs, marathons, and even like the nighttime city runs over Gwangan Bridge. That has become so popular. It seems like everyone's lacing up their sneakers.
And perfect time to do so. Like you said, it's cooling down. Thank goodness, right?
Right.
Perfect time to hit the pavement, as they say.
So since we live in Busan, the city of runners, right? I may say, it would be fun to talk about why running has become such a big trend and how it's reshaping the way we stay active and connected. Global studies show that since the outbreak of the pandemic, more people than ever before are running. In fact, most with the need to cope with the situation and feel carefree, just as a way to clear your head or breathing fresh air and getting out of the house. A large-scale study conducted by this very famous shoe company, starts with the letter A, confirmed that 65% of respondents said that the positive effects on their psyche from running were greater than any other form of physical activity.
Really?
79% of participants said that running helped them to feel more balanced mentally. So yeah, it's both the physical and the mental benefits of running that people seem to be so appreciative of right now.
And I was thinking, I mean, this is something that most, assuming that you have healthy knees, like you're relatively healthy, right? This is something you can do. It's pretty low cost. Throw on a pair of running shoes or sneakers, throw on some clothes because you don't want to be naked, and then you can go anywhere, right?
Right.
Yes.
Unlike golf, though, which has been also booming in the past few years, it requires a lot of expensive like gear, right? And you need a car to go play golf at this
expensive.
remote designated
It's really
location.
expensive, right.
But running, you can pretty much do that anywhere. You just need a pair of sneakers, like you said. And speaking of running anywhere, I don't know if you've ever heard, but there is this track behind the World Cup Stadium in Busan, which is like also super popular. I don't know if you've been there. It's like a public space. People go there to like walk on or train for like running. But the city recently announced out of the blue that they were going to do a construction for a few months, and that really upset a lot of people. But just yesterday afternoon, the city announced that they're postponing the construction until November instead of like September 2nd.
Yes.
So a lot of people are very happy about this yesterday.
I have a question for you that came up on our board. One of our listeners.
Yes.
It's a personal question. But
Personal
it's
question.
Not that personal. But they want to know, Taejin says they went to the gym and they saw someone that looked just like you. And they wanted to say hello, but they weren't sure if it was you. And so it was at the Sajik Homdaeng Sportsplex.
Yeah, well, that's...
Is that where you go?
I do go there sometimes.
Oh, so it might have been you.
I mean, it definitely could have been me.
Taejin waver.
You should definitely wave at me next time. I love connecting with people.
Okay. So you're not mistaken. 맞대요. 아마 맞을 거예요.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he was wondering, like, very, like, kind of, like, gently asking, was that her? Can you ask? He says. Oh, what a coincidence. So yes, running, it can be a very social activity, like you just said. So, I mean, what's up with that, the whole social aspect?
Right. So the awareness that we have now today, like the social SNS versus reality.
Yes.
Coupled with this movement about boosting your well-being, it has led to this new trend, which is in-person running clubs.
Yes.
People are choosing in-person connections over online interactions while staying fit with communities of like-minded individuals. Basically, run clubs are now the new way to meet people or like to date. Right. Instead of like the hiking, now we go running. So here's a fun fact about run clubs.
Okay.
Run clubs have a pretty long history dating back to the 19th century. The first known running club, the Thames Hare and Hounds, which still exists, was established in 1868 in London.
Yes.
Promoting the sport as a social activity for the first time. And over the decades, running clubs spread across Europe and North America, initially attracting only competitive runners. But now, you know, it's appealing to a broader audience. Like
Yes.
the barrier is lower, regardless of your running experience. But mostly people are seeking support, motivation, and, you know, that feeling of togetherness. Plus, there's this science behind conversational running, zone 2 running. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not like a running expert or
2
science,
running.
but there is
Yes.
this thing called zone 2 running. Essentially, it's a speed that's like enough for you to talk and run. Apparently, that has more significant benefit overall than just like running like super fast. Right.
So I like that because like in days past, back in the day, people kind of saw running as a solo kind of effort. Yes, once in a while you would say to your friend like in college, like, oh, let's go for a run. But was there like a lot of talking, maybe before and after? Well, not really during, right? You know, like after, like, you know, sometimes if your speed is different, you'd be like, I would tell my friend like, hey, you know, if one of us like, you know, gets left behind, we'll meet at this coffee shop right after, right? And so that's what we would do, right?
Right.
And then we would meet up, and then the whole purpose would be like, well, we just ran. Should we really be getting that drink? Probably not, right? You know what I'm? You know, like maybe if it's like a coffee, just like a regular Americano, it's okay. But we're like, no, we shouldn't get it the latte because we just you know shaved off calories
But, you know, 국밥 is 국룰 after running.
after running.
Yeah, people do that. But, you
yes.
know, online platforms make it a lot easier for runners to connect even more now and to organize events and track progress. Basically, online platforms are making running more accessible and inclusive as well.
Right.
On this very famous online platform, starts with the letter T, hashtag Run Talk has over 3.4 billion views. Last year, there's been over 360% increase in influencers specializing in like activeness than the year before, apparently. What's particularly cool about this trend is, though, people who are leading the way in this like running trend
Yes.
are very diverse. Some of them are professional coaches, but some of them are just people that are crazy about running. And not all of them have the same body types.
Sure.
Which is a nice reminder that anyone can pretty much run. Obviously, this trend is attracting a lot of running brands as well.
Sure.
And that's because that's where the money is. According to this one popular Korean shoe boutique company that sells trendy shoes online.
Okay.
They said in Korea there's been a surge of over 40% more sales just in running shoes between January and July this year.
Wow, that's a big surge.
Yeah, and Gen Zs are drinking less too. One data says 25% over the last 4 years. So running has overtaken nightclubs for socializing. So for instance, Friday Night Lights is a run club in London. They host weekly running parties, and they're like called summer strides or karaoke kilometers.
I love
or
it.
track and tunes.
The names are so fun.
Yeah, instead of just drinking, you run around the park, and maybe they drink after. But it's not just all about drinking anymore.
It sounds like so much fun. And we're going to have to call it a wrap. But you know what? I guess Taejin is not the only one that saw you.
Wow, really? I guess
You're
I
so-
am all over the place.
You're all over the place, and they're like commenting like,
Guys,
they're like,
just
you're
come
what a
up
good
and-
runner you are.
Yeah, come up and give me a high five or a kudos.
Say, what's up?
Say what's up? Yeah.
So, well, thank you for bringing this to our attention and bringing the spotlight on running. Now I'm so motivated. I'm going to start running.
Yeah, let's
too.
get running, guys.
All right. We'll check in with you next week. Bye, Lydia.
All right, see you next week.
And here is Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson. I'll be back at 8.
This is that ice cold Michelle fight for that white gold. This one for them hood girls, them good girls, straight masterpieces. Stylin', wildin', living it up in the city. Got Chuck's on on with Saint Laurent. Gotta kiss myself, I'm so pretty. I'm too hot. Call the police and the fireman. I'm too hot. Call the bag and wanna retire, man. I'm too hot. Say my name, you know who I am. I'm too hot. And my band bought that money. Break it down. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Cause Uptown Funk don't give it to you. Cause Uptown Funk don't give it to you. Cause Uptown Funk don't give it to you. Saturday night and we in the spot. Don't believe me, just watch. 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 Hey, 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 oh! Stop. Wait a minute. Fill my cup, put some nigga in it. Take a sip, sign the check. Julio, get the stretch. Right to Harlem, Hollywood, Jackson, Mississippi. If we show up, we gon' show out. Smoother than a fresh drop skipping. I'm too hot. Call the police and the fireman. I'm too hot. Call the dragon, wanna retire, man. I'm too hot. Say my name, you know who I am. I'm too hot. And my band bought that money. Break it down. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Cause Uptown Funk don't give it to you. Cause Uptown Funk don't give it to you. Cause Uptown Funk don't give it to you. Saturday night and we in the spot. Don't believe me, just watch. 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 Hey, 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 oh! Before we leave, let me tell y'all a little something. Uptown, funk you up. Uptown, funk you up. Uptown, funk you up. Uptown, funk you up. I said uptown, funk you up. Uptown, funk you up. Uptown, funk you up. Uptown, funk you up.
Your Bridge to the World.
Jump on it if you've succeeded and flown it.
스쿨존에서는 반드시 시속 30km 이하 서행, 스쿨존 내 불법 주정차 금지, 차량 출발 전 앞뒤 좌우 살피는 습관으로 어린이가 안전한 도시를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전, 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
Hola, I am Rafael Salardi, a Peruvian living in Busan for 20 years now. After living in Peru, I fell in love with Korean culture, so I decided to move to Busan. I like feeling the warm sunrise at the beaches in Busan on sunny days. A cup of coffee while looking at the sea in the coffee city Busan reminds me of the Andes Mountains, a famous coffee producer in Peru. The reason why I like Busan more than anything else is the people. Even though I was not good at Korean, everyone treated me with kindness and friendliness. I really appreciate those who are so nice to me. I want to live happily ever after in Busan for a long, long time. Gracias, Busan. Global City Busan, we are all in it together. This campaign was brought to you by BEFM Busan Yongo Banson.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Good morning,
Dynamic Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded. What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
It is now 8 o'clock and this is News Highlights. National Assembly passes 28 bills, including Nursing Act. The National Assembly passed 28 bills yesterday, including its first set of legislation that have to do with the people's livelihoods. One such bill is the Nursing Act, which formalizes the role of physician's assistants. There's also revisions to the Civil Act dubbed the Kuara Act, preventing parents who have neglected their children from inheriting their children's wealth. Yesterday's session excluded the 6 bills vetoed by President Yoon Suk-yeol, including the broadcasting bills, the yellow envelope bill, and the cash handout bill, which will be put up for a revote on September 26th. Presidential office refuses to reconsider medical school admissions quota for 2026. The presidential office has again refused to reconsider its plans to raise the quota on medical school admissions for the 2026 academic year, a proposal raised by ruling party leader Han Dong-hoon. An official from Yongsan told reporters that deferring this quota so soon after the decision would cause great confusion among students and parents. The top office also said that it has come up with special measures to prevent a crisis among the country's emergency rooms during the upcoming Chuseok holidays. Government to boost Chuseok holiday food supply for price management. The government yesterday announced plans to release reserves of high-demand food items as part of a plan to manage prices ahead of the Chuseok holiday next month. The plans will add a record 170,000 tons of food to the country's supply, including cabbage and radish. The government will also provide 70 billion won in subsidies for discounts to allow consumers to save up to 50% on agricultural products and 60% on fisheries products. Czech special envoy to visit South Korea next month after nuclear plant deal. A Czech special envoy is scheduled to visit South Korea early next month to discuss potential bilateral industrial cooperation after a South Korean consortium was chosen as a preferred bidder for a nuclear plant project in the country. The delegation is expected to meet with high-ranking officials and visit major institutions, including the Korea Institute for Advancement of Technology. Pundits suggest that the Czech delegation may explore broad industrial cooperation with South Korea, potentially extending beyond nuclear reactor construction to encompass other strategic sectors. Japan issues emergency warning as powerful typhoon Shanshan approaches. Japan has issued an emergency warning as Typhoon Shanshan approaches its southwest towards Kagoshima and Miyazaki prefectures on the southwestern Kyushu island with an extremely strong force. Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi told reporters that the typhoon is expected to pack winds of up to 250 kilometers per hour and would bring violent winds and high waves stronger than those experienced in the past. Authorities issued evacuation orders yesterday for more than 800,000 residents. Carmaker Toyota suspended operations of all 14 plants in Japan as of yesterday evening and expected to continue through this morning. And this was News Highlights. Time for Waggle Waggle. So, yes, that means Haley's back in the studio with us.
Hello, hello.
All right, so this first issue is related to the ongoing Telegram deepfake problem. There was a precursor of the ongoing cases dubbed the Seoul National University Nth Rooms, and the court sentenced the perpetrator of this case to 5 years in prison, correct?
Right, so this is separate from what's going on right now.
Yes.
Previously, there was this case involving several perpetrators, but one of them, 28-year-old Park, has been sentenced to 5 years in prison by Seoul Central Court on the violation of the Sexual Crimes Act. So the defendant has been guilty of creating some 400 pornographic contents using deepfake technology and distributing 1,700 of such contents via the Telegram chat rooms. So he himself is actually not a graduate of Seoul National University. However, he contacted an alumnus of the school who's also undergoing trial, along with other colluders, and they collectively got photos of mostly female students from their website, social media, your social media profile pictures of dozens of female students and graduates of the school. So the judge said, and this verdict is actually seen as quite important, the contents of the fake videos are, quote, unspeakably disgusting, and also condemned the defendant for objectifying the victims as a form of stress relief without shame and taking advantage of technology as a form of convenience and anonymity. So the victim's legal counsel said that the wording of this ruling is actually quite significant because it points out the gravity of using anonymity to create victims and how harmful such dissemination of deepfake technology can be. Because some people do still say, well, it's not really them, so is it a big deal? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So let's just quote the judge, unspeakably disgusting.
Right.
So there's also been criticism that the current laws are too weak because the 5 years the defendant received is actually the heaviest sentence one can get for creating fake videos.
Oh.
Also, there's a 7-year maximum sentencing for distributing fake videos. And still, in many cases, they usually never go up to 5 or 7 years. Usually, most of the sexual assault or sexual crime cases do end up, well, not most, but many end with probation, which serves no jail time. And there's actually no way to punish someone under the legal system for watching or being in possession of such videos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right. So that's what's been going on with the so-called SNU Nth Rooms. Coming back to what's been going on right now with Unfortunately, this spanning middle schools, high schools, up to universities. The Ministry of Education yesterday said that the level of punishment has to be high for these deepfake videos, which would be determined by the respective schools' school violence committees. So in high school, the education minister said potentially a maximum of expulsion, so being expelled, or forced transfers in elementary or middle schools, which are mandatory education, would be warranted.
Yes.
But here's the thing.
Right.
We covered that case, locally in Haeundae area middle school, where the perpetrators of dozens of deepfake pornography of their classmates, minors, and even teachers were were given, was it level 5, which is special classes. So, put your money where your mouth is.
Speechless is what we'll say.
Yeah. Oh, I have words, but I can't say them.
Yes. And we do have to address the fact that some people don't see this as a big deal, and I see this as a huge deal.
And I think this is where, fundamentally one of the causes lies, is because some people say, well, this isn't real. We're not really making victims out of anyone. But yes, you are. So we really need to, correct. Like, I don't want to get on my soapbox or give moral lectures, but
still.
You're making pornographic contents of minors, and I don't care if it's not their body. So a YouTuber named Bokka posted a video, and he has 1.19 million subscribers, and called the situation involving deepfake videos and people's reactions to it making a fuss.
Oh, really?
So in Korean, he said 호들갑 떤다. So he was referring to this 호들갑. The fuss was women telling each other to take down pictures, your profile pictures that have a full shot of your face, and turn your social media profiles private, which is just good advice to begin with.
Yes.
So he told his viewers to quote unquote filter out or shun people who respond in this manner to such cases. And he stated that female reporters and female politicians are part of this propaganda campaign, and it acts like a military operation. So that has been met with widespread criticism, including a comment, and this was in English, quote, "You all are insane for blaming the women instead of holding the men of your country accountable." I'm like, well, yeah. So by the way, this particular individual is what we've referring to as the Wrecker YouTuber or Rekka YouTuber.
Yes.
And he actually posts videos of these comments with his face behind a mask, and we did throw up a photo. And it's not just like a mask. He wears like darkened out, fully black goggles. So, if you can't say that with your face out, then you obviously have something to hide. So anyways, this is adding to the calls to put the reins on these YouTubers or creators and hold them accountable for their actions and words, and also prevent them from profiting off of saying such things.
I have a bigger question.
Sure.
Who are the 1.19 million subscribers who subscribe to this content?
Yeah. And once again,
I'm
that's
just
a problem because, people are exposed to such content, and, then that
But there's a
perpetuates-
demand and supply side. This is
Right.
a capitalist country.
It's a free country,
It's
so
a free
people
country.
no one forced them to subscribe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
So
hence-
it makes me sad.
Yes. All right, let's move on. The authorities are investigating this case where an official with the Defense Intelligence Command allegedly passed off identities of black agents overseas. So we have more details on this issue, right?
We do. So this is a civilian officer with the Korea Defense Intelligence Command who has been charged with bribery and violation of Classified Military Information Act.
Yes.
So he has been put under detention this week, according to the Defense Ministry's prosecution. So this person was apparently a military official in the 90s. His status changed to a civilian official in the mid-2000s. And he was actually quite high ranked, a team leader level at the time of the alleged crime. So according to the prosecution, this individual was in China to meet with his local intelligence contact, but he got arrested at the local airport by the Chinese authorities. And apparently at that point, the Chinese agents offered for him to become a double agent. And he told the military that he received money for the classified military intelligence and wrote in his indictment that he started receiving money from China in May of 2019. And the military he deleted all these voice memos, and that's how the information was passed on. But the military was able to restore them via digital forensics, some 2,000 voice memos the suspect sent to his Chinese contact. And in one of them, or in few of them, he collectively demands about 400 million won from China, so roughly about 4억 won. In return, he actually received 160 million won via false name accounts. So there might be more charges regarding the financial crimes.
Okay.
So the military said that to the bigger picture, there were a lot of easy opportunities for this individual to access classified information, of course, within his team, but also outside of his department as well. So there could be loopholes there. And by the way, and there were concerns that the information may have been passed on to North Korea. At least according to the current investigation, there is no evidence or concrete evidence proving the North Korea connection.
I see. All right. So further details on that story. Thank you for the update. Okay, we're going to go back to a theme that we've talked about before. A parent filing a child abuse complaint against a teacher for perceived or alleged child abuse. So let's get the details on this story.
And that act is having a middle school student come up to the board to solve a problem. And that was perceived as child abuse. I mean. So a middle school teacher in Jeonbuk had a student, called a student up to the board during a class to, solve a question, as we've all done that. I've been the student doing it. Been the student getting the question wrong too. But the parent filed a child abuse complaint. So they also cited the teacher told the specific student, that they weren't doing the class cleaning. So basically picking on that student and thus embarrassing and shaming the student. But there's a bit of history, it seems. There was a school violence case where the teacher and the parent were at odds. The parent, instead of filing a school violence report, just asked the teacher to separate their child from the other student. The teacher refused because apparently their hands are tied unless there's actually an official report filed. They can't just arbitrarily separate students because that could also be perceived as problematic.
Okay.
So after this, according to reports, the parent continuously requested that the teacher be transferred to another class or even to another school, claiming that the teacher was negligent and abetting in the child getting bullied.
Oh.
So that went to the police. The police did not press charges. So, legally it's done. It's clean. But of course, if you are a teacher who's had a child abuse claim lodged against them, that's traumatic. That's traumatic. It's such a psychological burden that, has probably has lasting impacts.
Yes.
So the Union of Teachers said that many of these emotional child abuse cases, they take comments out of context and they are single-sided on how the child may have felt or how the parents felt listening to their children's accounts. So they called for fundamental issues in preventing these baseless accusations.
Right. And, once again, I don't feel that students' rights and teachers' rights, it shouldn't be a zero-sum game.
They're mutually exclusive. By respecting your teachers, you foster an environment where the teachers have also respect and love for the students
too.
Right.
Yes, it goes both ways. Lastly, for our next story, we're going to talk about, we tighten our purse strings every so often. Didn't I send a picture of Moo the other day too?
Yeah, you did. It was our chat room, and she was like, "Look how expensive this is."
It was like 3,400 something, and I was just like, "Really? It's like normally 10 something, right?" Anyhow, but this woman in Japan, she took it to a whole new level.
She did. So a woman in Japan, and she's not rich, but she managed to buy 3 homes at the age of 34.
Okay.
And we were talking about this before the show, and I'm like, I'm roughly that age. I have 0 homes. So how do you do that? Well, I can never do this. Well, she spent just 200 yen. That's under, currency rates, under 2,000 won, 2,000won, $2 per day on food. Not a meal. That's a snack. That's a candy bar that I bought yesterday. On the entire day. And not buying anything unless it's on sale. I do, but I also spend way more. I add another 0 to that for my food expenses. So she made this decision at the tender age of 19. So she set a goal. She said, in 15 years, I'm going to have 3 homes. Wow.
At the age of 19?
At the age of 19. At the age of 19, I was like... I was like, what am I? Yeah, what am I going for?
19?
Yeah, for my weekend outings. So she worked as a real estate agent to make her seed money, and she just saved everything. She eats everything at home, eats straight out of the pot. She doesn't buy plates or dishes because that's extra expenses. She never buys new clothing, gets hand-me-downs from relatives and friends, and her furniture is from the junkyard. She even grew and sold her hair. Yeah. Which, that's extra money. I mean, listeners, would you be able to do this?
I don't know.
Spend in this economy though, 2001.
Let's say even if it's like 5,001 per day for the
really?
entire day.
I was going to say like 2만 원 is like, okay, 1만 원 maybe, 10,000
아니
won.
하루에 5,000원만 쓰는 것도 힘들 것 같은데요. Like it would be very difficult to
Unless
live on
you're Tommy
5,000원.
and you don't eat after you run, which is just like
just
people are just baffling me
air.
left and right. What is
Right.
happening?
Right.
Yeah, so she's, by the way, currently 37. What is she doing with all these homes?
What is
There's
she
only
doing?
one of you. Well, this is lovely. Her third home is a cafe that doubles as a cat shelter for stray cats. Like, this is just a wonderful person. Man.
Aw.
Yeah.
Befriend her.
Yeah.
No, just so that
She's like
I can
a good person.
take a page out of her book.
Yeah.
Learn from her.
Right?
Yes. So
Wow.
now that we feel terrible about ourselves and lunch menus, everybody, we're starving today. Okay. So
Oh, I have plans, so I'm going to start tomorrow.
no, today.
Sorry.
Today.
I'm meeting a
Just like
friend.
Tommy.
You guys.
Just breathe air. All right. Lastly, we're going to go to our Paralympics coverage.
Yes. So the opening ceremony for the 2024 Paris Paralympic Games have happened. Begun super early, 3 a.m. Korea time, with 4,400 athletes making their way along the Champs-Elysees. It was lovely, unlike the Olympics opening ceremonies, which were drenched in rain. Perfect summer evening. I mean, thank goodness. So they went to the Palace de la Concorde for the official outdoor ceremony. The sprinter for the Paris, for the French team, sprinter Nantine Kita and para-triathlete Alexis Henquaint are the French flag bearers for the ceremony. And the games began. The games have begun. Later today, women's pair in badminton, Kwon Hyuna and Jung Gyeol, will play against Japan in the group stage.
Okay.
We also have the first round of archery. In men's singles, Park Hong-jo and women's Kim Ok-geum. By the way, Ms. Kim is 64 years old.
64?
64 years old. Once again, we talked about this yesterday. You and I, not 64, can't we struggle with the bow and arrow.
Yes.
And Kim and Park will also pair up for the mixed team archery as well. And a major event for South Korea will be table tennis. That's always been our stronghold in Paralympics. And it also has the most number of athletes at 17. So 4 years ago, they won 13 medals, and they have their sights set on at least 3 golds for this year. The team is led by the captain from the Tokyo Games gold medalist Chu Young-dae. This is his 3rd Paralympics.
Wow.
Also, Seo Soo-yeon and Yoon Ji-yu will be pairing up for women's doubles. By the way, they have 14 years of age gap.
Oh,
so
really?
certainly interesting.
Such an interesting
So
stories
everyone's just
emerging.
transcending age and their respective disabilities. So definitely an inspirational event, or many events to come,
Yes.
and we will certainly keep you updated.
All right. Thank you for the coverage on that. So thank you, Haley. We'll check in with you tomorrow.
Have a great day.
All right. And I love your comments, waivers out there saying Tommy, I used 0 yesterday. But then we have other people saying 먹는 즐거움, and 윤정 waiver saying 전 그렇게 못 살아요. 차라리 집 한 채만 가지고 맛난 거 먹고 살래요. 먹는 즐거움 너무 커요. So meaning she would rather just have one house as opposed to 3 and enjoy eating. But, to each his or her own. We're going to get to your traffic and weather. It is now 8:21. Here's your traffic update. There is a cargo truck that is broken down on the Dongso overpass going out of the city by the Hwangyong ramp. It's causing a lot of backup right now. It is slow on Chungnyeoldaero from Minam intersection to Daesung intersection. Also backed up on Byeongyonglo from the old Banyo toll gate to Suyang Tunnel. Congestion on Gayadero from Kaegum to Judae intersection as well. Currently 28 already. It's going to go up to 31 today. It's going to be quite windy. There's going to be rain later on. Looking at the weather nationwide, Jeju is under the direct or indirect influence of Typhoon Shanshan. Once again, indirect influence with heavy rain and strong wind advisory over the island and the southern coast. The far seas of Namhae or the southern coast are also under a typhoon special advisory. Please take precautionary measures if you are in these areas. Gangwon and Gyeongsang regions will see rain this afternoon as well, but the influence of the typhoon will bring heat to the western capital area. This was your traffic and weather. And this is Crybaby by Clean Bandit and Anne-Marie.
I know what you did last night. I called you up and you declined. I smell perfume, but it ain't mine. It's not okay, but it's alright. Cause you're telling so many lies, I gotta let you go. Now you know what it's like to be all alone. Tell me, how you gonna hurt the one that loves you the most? Cause your tears gon' quiet a river, go let it flow. Don't want no cry, baby, at my door, I let him go. Boy, I ain't the same girl I was before. You're only crying cause I don't want you back no more. Boy, you had your chance, and you can keep on crying, baby. Outside the door. No, I don't wanna sit and talk. Can you hurry up? I'm bored. Cause you're telling so many lies, I gotta let you go. Now you know what it's like to be all alone. Tell me, how you gonna hurt the one that loves you the most? Yeah, cause your tears won't quiet a river, don't let it flow. Don't want no cry, baby, at my door, I let him go. Boy, I ain't the same girl I was before. You're only crying cause I don't want you back no more. Boy, you had your chance, and you can keep on crying, baby. I know you've been lying, baby. So you can keep on crying, baby. You can keep on crying, baby boy. I know you've been lying, baby. So you can keep on crying, baby.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's go over a text topic one last time before we get into our special interview. So, what type of person are you when it comes to arguments or disagreements? That was, or those were the questions that I posed to you. 태진 says that 어렸을 때는 성격이 급해서 확 싸우고 또 바로 풀고 했는데 요즘 나이 들고서는 싸우기도 싫고 혹여 싸우면 삐껴가지고 마음 푸는데 시간이 필요해요. So basically, when he was younger, he would kind of, he was a little impatient, so he would want to just get it over with, confront somebody. But now that he is getting a little older, or he is a little older, that it takes a little bit of time, even for himself, to get over something. So I guess it has changed with a little bit of aging, but I know for a fact he's not like old. He's just older. We're all getting older, right? As we speak, we're getting older. So along those lines, we have also a message from Umberto. In my case, definitely no yelling. I can project my voice, and according to anyone who heard me doing that says that I sound very scary. I can't imagine Umberto scary. A little skill that I acquired during my time in the infantry. So Umberto, yes, soldier voice, I guess. His voice carries very deep, I imagine. I do often wonder about our you wavers out there, what you guys sound in real life, because I only see your imaginary voices as you chat away, the written voice. We also have Lee Kelly, who sent in this quote from Mark Twain. And he says, depends who the person who I am arguing with, and it says this: never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience. By Mark Twain. So I thought that was really interesting. What do you think about that quote? So while you think about that, I will be back with our special interview. Wavers, imagine a world where sugary diets don't lead to health problems. Well, that is exactly the life of a fruit bat. That's right, these tiny creatures. They gorge on sugar, but somehow they dodge the diabetes bullet that plagues so many of us. Now, scientists are on this thrilling quest to uncover the genetic tricks that keep these bats, yes, I'm talking about pakji, healthy, hoping to translate their secrets into revolutionary treatments for diabetes, 당뇨병. So let's dive into how studying these fascinating creatures might change the future of diabetes treatment for people. We have invited Professor Wei Gordon, who's an assistant professor of biology at Menlo College. She's joining us to tell us about her research. Let's say hi to her. Hi, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so first of all, maybe you can give us a brief explanation of your research and what inspired your team to study, of all things, fruit bats as a model for understanding how to manage high sugar levels in the human body?
Yeah, so just a brief overview of my dissertation. My dissertation was to investigate the genetic factors underlying the evolution of frugivory or fruit eating in mammals. And what that really means is to determine what DNA sequences may have helped mammals specialize on fruit. And my dissertation involved investigating fruit eating primates as well, but fruit bats are a lot more specialized on fruit than fruit eating primates. This project really started because I came into Dr. Nadav Ahituv's lab, who is a professor at UC San Francisco. And as a new graduate student, I had an interest in food, fitness, working with a new organism. And Dr. Ahituv remembered a paper in Nature Scientific Reports, it's Meng et al. 2016, talking about evaluating bats as a model for diabetes. And following up on this paper became my rotation project and eventually my dissertation.
Well, thanks for explaining the backdrop. So can you tell us about the main differences that you found between fruit bats and other bats when it comes to how their bodies handle and break down the sugar?
Yeah, so our publication recently came out in Nature Communications, and I want to highlight that this was co-authored by me and Sungbin Baek, who is still at Yonsei University. And we compared the pancreases and kidneys of the Jamaican fruit bat to the insect-eating big brown bat. Excitingly, we found more insulin-producing and glucagon-producing cells in the fruit bats, as well as the genes that encode insulin and glucagon were sort of primed for production of those proteins. Now, that really matters because insulin and glucagon, as many of you have probably heard, are the protein hormones responsible for lowering or raising blood sugar, respectively. In terms of the kidney, we found a decrease in the kidney cells that are responsible for concentrating urine. And what we know about fruit bat urine is that fruit bats, they consume a lot of water from the fruit that they eat. And so they have a very dilute urine. And we believe that this decrease in the kidney cells responsible for concentrating urine contributes to that. And we also found that these fruit bats also lost a lot of the transporters in the kidney that are necessary for concentrating that urine, amongst a few other gene expression changes, but I'll stop there.
Yes. But one of our listeners is just very curious. They want to know why you chose bats in the first place, because you would think maybe why not a primate or something a little what we think is closer to home, closer to the human species.
Yeah, so I'll push back on that a little bit in that most experiments and animals that we work with as scientists are mice and rodents. So about 90% of US labs even, I think the stat is even higher than 90%. Most of the time we study mice, and you could argue that mice are also pretty different than using other primates to learn things about human biology. And the reason it's important to look at other organisms, of course, is we always want to evaluate potential human therapies in a non-human before we bring that over to humans. But I think there's really a sort of stop or a level of maybe approach that you can only reach by only using mice to address problems such as diabetes. And what we see out in nature is that these fruit bats have evolved to actually withstand. I mean, they eat up to 2 times their body weights a day in fruit. And you can imagine that that sugar level is something that humans are not going to be able to handle, and presumably other primates. Yeah, so even fruit-eating lemurs, their diet maybe only gets up to, I'd say, 70% of a fruit-based diet, and that's probably really high even. So a fruit bat is going to be almost exclusively fruit.
Yes. And so when we look at human beings, like, you know, we often hear from experts or from our own personal physicians, is that, of course, fruits are good for you, but not too much because, you know, fruits naturally contain sugar. So what did you learn from these fruit bats that might help in finding new ways to treat diabetes in human beings?
Yeah, so I think the most sort of interesting thing we've learned, and this is replicated in our paper, is that it was really surprising seeing just how many features the fruit bat kidney and pancreas is actually shared with human diabetic kidneys and pancreases. And the genes we were able to identify in our work could be involved with protecting the fruit bat from actually acquiring the disease. So those genes, those maybe protective genes against having diabetes, should be investigated further for human therapeutic potential. And the other part I'll point out is that I think our most exciting human therapeutic potential comes from the regulatory sequence data we generated, actually present in our preprint. We looked at DNA sequences that seemed to be differentially active in fruit bats and found a number of them to overlap markers for diabetes in humans. So it sort of suggests that there's something unique about those fruit bat DNA sequences that are active in fruit bats, but not in insectivorous bats. Maybe those sequences have something to do with maintaining their diets.
So so far you've studied certain organs in these fruit bats. So what other parts of their bodies would you want to study next to understand even more how they do stay so healthy, as you say, on such a sugary diet, sometimes even consuming 2 times, I guess, their body weight worth of fruit?
Yeah, so obviously we only study the pancreas and the kidney in this work. And as you can already assume, there's a lot of organs that should be looked at in relationship to metabolism. I think it would be really important to look next at the liver and skeletal muscle because they're responsible for responding to insulin from the pancreas as well as glucagon from the pancreas and turning the glucose you eat into energy storage for future use. It would also be important to look at the small intestine because that is the site for water and nutrient absorption.
Indeed. And so how do you plan to see if these special traits in these fruit bats can be used to help people who might be suffering from diabetes? Is there a way to somehow connect to see some sort of correlation so it can parlay over to human beings?
There definitely is. I would say we're still a long way from that, but that idea is certainly exciting. And this is where I would like to highlight my old mentor's lab, Dr. Nadav Hituv, because what that lab is actually known for, and it does so well, is they test the DNA sequences for functional impact in cells and mice. So seeing if that unique fruit bat DNA sequence actually has an effect on an organism. So the big experiment would be to replace mouse DNA with fruit bat DNA using CRISPR or some other mechanism, and then seeing if those edited mice have better blood sugar regulation or some other related phenotype.
So fascinating to even think about that, to be able to replace the mice DNA with a fruit bat DNA to see if that works, if that actually does help them to stave off diabetes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the sky's the limit, as they say. Well, thank you so much for explaining your work thus far, and we look forward to hearing more about your further research. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. This was Professor Wei Gordon. So far, she seems to have focused her studies on the pancreas and the kidneys. So we're talking about the 췌장 and 신장 of fruit bats and how that may be affected by, the diabetes, and actually that these fruit bats, that they are able to survive even though they're eating these high volumes of sugar in the fruit. How long will this take to research, and how that will play on to affect human beings? We're not quite sure, but this is so fascinating to find out about fruit bats and diabetes and sugar. So for now, though, we're going to get to our next song. This is 제주도의 푸른 밤. This is by 성시경. Enjoy. I'll be back in a moment.
모든 걸 훌훌 버리고 제주도 푸른 밤 그 별 아래 이제는 더 이상 얽매이긴 우린 싫어요. 신문에 TV에 월급 봉투에 벼락보다는 바다를 볼 수 있는 창문이 좋아요. 긴 강바늘 구고 감귤도 우리 둘이 갖고 와봐요. 정말로 그대가 외롭다고 느껴진다면 떠나요. 제주도 푸른 밤 하늘 아래로 힘들 게 별로 없어요. 제주도 푸른 밤 그 별 아래 그동안 우리는 오랫동안 지쳤잖아요. 술집에 카페에 많은 사람의 도시의 침묵보다는 바다의 속삭임이 좋아요. 신혼부부 밀려와 똑같은 사진
get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
It's time for City Insights. We have Haeyeon in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you're doing well.
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. We're going to dive into our
let's
city.
Get right into it. So the Busan International Comedy Festival kicked off last weekend, and I got to sit down with one of the international performance teams called the Bubble Laboratory. They put on their show Bubble Show in Space last weekend, and actually this year's international lineup was quite diverse. They had stand-ups from Melbourne, very physical slapstick performers from Japan, and the very famous prop comic Tape Face. And then, of course, the Bubble Laboratory, which is made up of the duo Kurt Murray, a.k.a. Dr. Bubble, and Julio Benze, a.k.a. Milkshake.
I love their... Oh my, Dr. Bubble and Milkshake. I love their names, the monikers.
Bubble performers. Okay. So they brought smoke-filled bubbles, huge bubble trains. It involves shadow puppetry, clowning, dance, and storytelling.
Yes.
And this was actually their first time here in Korea and Busan. And they said that what stands them apart from other bubble shows is other bubble shows, listeners, you might have seen other bubble shows. They do a lot of elaborate tricks, but in the case of Bubble Laboratory, when they started, they didn't really know how bubble shows really run. So they kind of started out wrong, but in the best way, right? They would make the storylines and the characters first, and then focus on how to use the bubbles to make people laugh and to tell the stories. And this led to making a bubble show about outer space, which began at the beginning of this year. They've been getting great reviews for it, and they tour around the world. Actually, if you're on our YouTube live stream, I went to their show on Sunday.
And are these actual photos?
Yes, this is one of the photos that I took, and you can see that the first photo was like large, long train bubble.
Yes.
And they also created star-shaped, hundreds of tiny little bubbles.
Those are bubbles
on stage. Stars? And they had all sorts of bubbles, square bubbles, bubbles that they also came out to the audience, and you can see children and adults just raising their hands. At one point, I got so excited. I was so into it. And my 10-year-old niece who went with me, she was really excited too. But at one point, she turned to me and said, "Okay, Como, you need to take it easy."
Calm down.
You're getting way too excited. So I
She's only 10.
Okay, I get it. So actually, in the next clip that we're going to listen to, we're going to hear about how Dr. Bubble and Milkshake, how they started collaborating together and the different projects that they worked on throughout the years. So let's take a listen.
We've been working for how long now?
14 years.
14 years.
So does it go before even starting the Bubble Laboratory?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes. We used to do different projects as well.
Physical theatre shows.
Yeah. And you started with the bubbles, and then we were doing theatre together, and you were telling everybody that you want to make this theatre bubble show, and everybody looked at you like you were crazy. And you convinced me. And I was like, oh, yeah, let's do a theater bubble show. Why not? I don't have anything better to do with my time. Then we did it, and it went so well. And the progress, because we have so many bubble shows in our repertoire.
Yeah.
We have, remember Dr. Bubble, the Bubble Magician. That was our first one. Then the second one was the Ecological Bubble Show, where you save the world through the power of bubbles.
Oh, there's the one about the fears as well.
Yeah, don't take yourselves too seriously.
Yeah. Oh, and don't be afraid. That was Mini Milkshake was don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that there's this very heartfelt and empowered messages for each of their pieces. And, by the end of their show, so this show in particular, the theme, it was outer space. And the idea of the show was, the character Milkshake, she really wanted to reach for the star in the sky and get it, and how we can all reach for the star in the sky.
Sure.
And by the end of it, I was just in awe. bubbles, it just makes you happy.
I mean,
it's magical.
If I had been there, I would have been reaching for those bubbles and embarrassing, whoever was sitting next to me.
And we were just, everyone, in the audience, we were all just connected by the end of the show.
It sounds like a really, really great performance. So thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Yes.
And is it okay if we move on to our second one?
Let's do that.
Yeah, okay.
So for our second insight, the writer of the book of essays called 이번 역은 요절복통 지하세계입니다.
Oh, what is this?
The writer, Mr. Lee Do-hoon, joined us in the studio. So if I were to translate this title into English, I think it would be like this. This station is Roll on the Floor Laughter Underworld. So Mr. Lee Do-hoon, he's been a subway train operator for Busan's subway line 2 for the past 7 years.
Yes.
And he wrote this book that's packed with hilarious stories from his time on the job, all told with his unique sense of humor. He fulfilled his dream of becoming an author by winning the grand prize at the Brunch Platform's book publishing project. And he believes that he was picked because of his sort of brazen and shameless humor that has a deep philosophy behind it.
Wow, so stories of the subway told by a subway train operator. So I'm thinking, I don't know, the first words, like very authentic and I'm sure like interesting.
Definitely.
Stories to be told, right?
And he's such a funny guy. At first glance, he has a very serious tone of voice. But then he talked quite a bit about poop, actually. The bathroom matters of, nature's call, poop. For the longest time during the interview, I think he probably broke the record on BFM for talking about it for the longest.
Or like constantly talking about that?
Yeah, but like in a way that's related to the book, because his book actually starts on stories about, these emergencies that train operators have to endure when they're operating the train because of these situations.
Sure.
But then he would be talking about that, and then in the next breath, he'd tell a very moving story about how the subway and everybody who works for the subway, how it's so filled with humanity. So yeah, he put us on a really emotional roller coaster.
Oh, wow.
And I could really feel the essence of his, in his own words, 뻔뻔한 humor and 철학. He actually said his comedy idols are the cartoon character Jang-go and the Korean comedian Lee Soo-gun.
I feel the vibe.
Yeah, I could feel the vibe. And he even put together an encyclopedia of all the colorful passengers that he observed and came across on this subway. And I thought, how fun would it be to compare all those encyclopedias of the subway passengers of different cities around the world, right? Because I've had quite a few great experiences on New York subways as well. And he said something beautiful. He said, as a subway operator, the job itself can feel pretty monotonous in this sort of gray world of the subway, but the passengers bring a lot of color to that routine.
Yes.
So, for example, he once had to make an announcement on the intercom to tell one passenger to please stop doing pull-ups on the train because it was intimidating the other passengers.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure.
And then another passenger was full-on doing jump ropes on the subway, just sweating.
On the subway train?
Yeah, so apparently Busan citizens love to kill two birds, one stone by exercising on their commute. Interesting.
Do we have waivers that are doing that? Please don't do that. So listening to Morning Wave in Busan and then jump roping or doing pull-ups.
That's multitasking there.
Yes.
Well, in the next clip, Mr. Lee Do-hoon shares what a typical day is like for a subway operator and what are some of the biggest challenges on the job. Let's take a listen.
간단하게 말씀드리면 저희는 부산을 하루에 크게 2바퀴 돕니다. 그러면 시간이 이제 다 가버리죠. 한 번 근무를 하면은 평균 2시간 반에서 3시간 정도 이렇게 차에 타 있는데 그동안 그러다 보니까 화장실을 못 간다는 사실이 제일 힘들죠. 그래서 다들 좀 전에 저처럼 습관적으로 화장실 가고 근무 시간 되면 물도 잘 마시지 않고 이렇게 하는데 근데 사실 아무리 조심한다 한들 이게 위기는 찾아오기 마련이잖아요. 근데 무슨 일이 있어도 열차는 제 시간에 가야 하니까.
그렇죠.
그래서 저도 사실 승객들 아무도 모를 텐데 승객들 몰래 제 이제 운전실 문 바로 뒤에 승객들이 아무것도 모르고 있는데 거기서 저 혼자 그 어두운 2평 운전실에서 남몰래 엉덩이를 까본 적이 있거든요. 그래서 이 정시성, 지하철이 지킨 정시성 이거 절대 쉽게 얻어지는 것이 아니다.
Yes, so he shared that his job makes him circle around Busan twice in a day, and each shift typically lasts about 2.5 hours. And again, the hardest part is not being able to use the bathroom. And one time he actually had to once discreetly deal with a situation in the dark confines of the operator's cabin. So the punctuality that our Busan subway system prides itself on does not come easily.
Oh, apparently there's a price to pay.
There's a price to pay. So the next time I'm on the subway, I'm going to be thinking about somebody's sacrifice that's being made perhaps at the moment. Yeah.
So as Dr. Yu says, if you don't go to the restroom on time, you might get hemorrhoids. So be careful.
Yes.
Or like get UTI.
These issues. Thank you, Dr. Yu, of course. Reminding
timely bathroom visits are good.
Yes, definitely.
But, you know, he has a job to do. So. Well, thank you for bringing these two wildly, vastly different insights today.
I've been having fun with that. Two very different insights.
But I love it. I love it. So we look forward to next time as well. Thank you so much, Han.
All right. Take care.
All right. It's time to wrap things up for this Thursday. Almost there, everybody. You know what that means, right? So don't get confused. 금요일에 만나요. That means tomorrow. This is by IU. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.
월요일엔 아마 바쁘지 않을까 화요일도 성급해 보이지 안 그래 수요일은 뭔가 어정쩡한 느낌 목요일은 그냥 내가 왠지 싫어 이번 주 금요일 금요일의 시간 어때요 주말까지 기다리긴 힘들어 시간아 달려라 시계로 보태고 싶지만 마인 컨트롤러가 될 거야 이 남자 도대체 뭐야 사랑에 빠지지 않고 못 빼기겠어 언제면 내 맘은 저기 시계 바늘 위에 올라타 한 칸씩 그대에게 더 가까이 이번 주 금요일 금요일의 시간 어때요 딱히 보고 싶은 영화는 없지만 딱히 먹고 싶은 메뉴는 없지만 주말까지 기다리긴 힘들어 시간아 달려라 시계로 보태고 싶지만 마인 컨트롤러가 될 거야 이 남자 도대체 뭐야 사랑에 빠지지 않고 못 빼기겠어 언제면 내 맘은 저기 시계 바늘 위에 올라타 한 칸씩 그대에게 더 가까이
누군가에 올린 것 같아 여잔 도대체 뭐야